Hi guys, and welcome back to the Pulse Social Sports Podcast. In today's episode, we are speaking to Tony Mckeown of London Youth Rowing about his experiences with rowing and coaching juniors. So what do you coach, and what type of groups do you coach, and what do you do really?
I coach rowing, OIR. There's been youth groups, like we're rowing, it's secondary school kids. Obviously primary school kids aren't allowed to do rowing. I started that back in 2017, probably because of uni, joining the uni rowing club. Did you ever meet Joey?
Yes, I did meet Joey in the end.
Yeah, well, he worked with OIR as well anyway, so he told us all in our first year, like, OIR are looking for coaches, so if you're interested. Yeah, so I started that. That's the first proper sort of coaching role I ever had, other than doing what was required of me to pass like GCSE, PE, and like A-level sport. Yeah. I
mean, obviously, that's how you got involved in coaching rowing. So, have you had any kind of standout kind of coaching moments at all? Have you had any kind of real highlights at all?
I must say, highlights to look back on. Some funny moments that usually come when it's a very windy day, but we take the kids out on the water in lake boats, because trying to get the boats off the pontoon is always a laugh. But I don't know if you mean highlights in terms of really good coaching moments. Like, I guess you mean things that went really well.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of sessions at OIR. I can't remember exactly what school they were, but my better sessions, ironically, generally come when it's actually quite busy and you got to sort of take charge of stuff and just get on with stuff. Yeah, it's hard to really explain.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there's a lot of responsibilities, like you're trying to supervise kids getting lake boats down to the water, trying to get them to get their blades down, and if you're understaffed, there's just so much to organise. But it's those moments that I think are actually my highlights, because at that point you feel like a proper coach, like, in a weird way, despite the stress that comes with it.
Makes sense. And then obviously on the flip side, have you had any kind of proper kind of, rough coaching moments at all?
No, I wouldn't say I have really. There's been a session where I was probably least comfortable. It was actually when I started doing the SEN sessions, because obviously I'd never had experience working with people with disabilities. So so I was a bit apprehensive about that, just basically knowing sort of what to say, how to say it and stuff. But I was apprehensive for nothing, because I had Cheryl and Morris would obviously take charge of the session, so I just shadowed them, and it was fine after the first session. Enjoyed them after that.
And just for the people at home that might not know, what's a lake boat?
Lake boats are 4-seater wooden rowing boats. Basically, they probably look like your stereotypical rowing boat that you might get at like a park or something. But 4 seats. Still have sliding seats like fine racing boats and a cox seat. But just wooden, a lot wider basically for novices to start rowing in them before moving on to the rec boats and then the fine racing boats.
And do you think that rowing is important for kind of school and youth groups, and what do you think they gain out of it?
Well, I think for one, because of how complex rowing is as a sport, like it is a very technical sport. For one, you definitely learn patience, I think, from rowing, because it is a technical sport. You do need to row for a good few years before you can be considered like a good rower. Maybe even like something that seems so simple, like trying to feather with your blades off the water. Like, you know how much core work and strength and stuff that takes. Yeah, because it's so technical, you got to be patient with it. That on the water during sessions, can't tense up, you can't get angry, because that's just going to make it worse. What initially sounded like quite a weird analogy from a colleague at LYR before, about rowing being a lot like riding a horse. But it does actually make sense when you think about it. I've never ridden a horse myself, but apparently if you're riding a horse and you get all tense and angry, like the same applies. Like, it's just going to make it worse. You're going to make the horse tense and stuff like that. So yeah, patience would be the main thing I think you'd learn from that. And obviously just general fitness. I really do believe that sport, health and fitness should be a bigger part of the national curriculum than it actually is. Rowing is a very intense sport. It can be. You know, it does require a lot of cardio, you know, so and the effects on mental health as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just a little one to add on again, because you volunteered, or you've done stuff with the indoor youth rowing championships, haven't you?
Yeah, and joke, yeah.
Yeah. Can you just explain a little bit about what that is and what you did, really?
I've done that twice. So NJERC is the National Junior Indoor Rowing Championships. Takes place every year in London. Where was the last place? The last place it was in was the Copper Box Arena in the Olympic Park. So yeah, basically you get secondary school kids, all years, year 7 to, was it? You'd include sixth form as well.
Yeah,
so year 13, I think.
Yeah.
And basically they have a set, either a specific time they row for. So I think like year 7 to 9, for example, like year 7 might row as far as they can in like 2 or 3 minutes. Year 8 might be like 3 or 4 minutes, and so on. And whoever in that category rows the furthest wins the competition. I don't know at what point it changes, but let's say, for example, like from year 10 and above, it then becomes a certain distance that you race, and whoever does that distance the fastest will obviously win.
Yeah.
The 2 years I've done it, I've been supervising what's called the bullpen, I think, where it's used as, well, it used to be used as like a warm-up area a few years ago, but I think the first year I actually done NJERC, it was became the area where anyone who's missed a race could go there and have their times still recorded. But yeah, it's usually like anywhere from like 8 to 12 ergs set up. But yeah, you just got to supervise that. Anyone who misses a race comes there, writes down their name, age and stuff like that, school that they're with, and yeah, they get a chance to do their time if they've missed their race.
Just want to say massive thanks for taking the time to speak to us today.
You're very welcome.
Cheers for that.
Good, man.
Massive thanks again for coming on the show, and a big thank you to all of our listeners at home for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, then you are welcome to follow us on our Twitter, our LinkedIn, or our Facebook at Social CIC. That's all we've got time for this week. See you next time.